allowing him in just the area of Al Arish and Rafah border area, where most of the stocks, unfortunately, have run out of fuel. The petrol stations have run out of fuel at the moment in Egypt, this part, because it's not possible for people to get the medication they need. When they went to the pharmacy to look for medication, and they found even the pharmacies have no medicine at all left, because the people are taking as much as possible, believing that the siege has not ended and it will continue for the next few months at least.
Mohammed Omer is a Palestinian journalist living in the Rafah refugee camp, speaking to us from Gaza City right now. We're going to go to break. When we come back, we're also going to go to Tel Aviv to talk with Israeli journalist Gideon Levy, and we're going to look at the U.S. presidential candidate's stand on the Israel-Palestine conflict. Stay with us. Marcel Khalifa here on Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. As we go now to Tel Aviv, to Israeli journalist Gideon Levy, who is a regular columnist for Haaretz newspaper, recently awarded the 2008 Euromed Journalist Prize for Cultural Dialogue. Welcome to Democracy Now!, Gideon Levy. Your response to what's happening in Gaza right now, and the Israeli government saying this is now the Egyptian government's responsibility.
I think nobody should be surprised when you try to make an experiment in human beings, putting them into a huge cage for months and months. You can't expect that they will not do anything possible to find a way out. And anyone who claims he is surprised for what happened really is ununderstandable. I also understand the Egyptian attitude. What could they do? They couldn't stand and shoot in hundreds of thousands of people, of refugees who are trying to get some food, as simple as this. Unfortunately, I'm not sure that this situation will remain for long, and I'm afraid that very soon the siege will be completed again, and again we'll face this humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza.
Gideon Levy, the figures from the United Nations right now, they are saying 79% of Palestinians in Gaza Strip live in poverty. The water supply to the Gaza Strip is approximately half the international standard. The UN saying Palestinians say 40% of Gazans lack drinking water. Are these the figures that you understand?
Those are the almost minimal figures, because I don't deal with figures. I deal usually with human beings, and I have few friends there who keep on informing me. Unfortunately, the Israeli government, the Israeli IDF, the Israeli army, does not let Israeli journalists into Gaza in the last 14 or 15 months. So I'm better informed over the phone. And I can tell you that all the statistics are nothing vis-a-vis the reality. People are waking up in Gaza into a reality which I don't think many Westerns, including Israelis, can imagine it at all. No future, no perspectives, no fuel for the car, no electricity in those very, very cold nights. And a big life threat day after day, because don't forget that the Israeli army is being active there almost every day. from the air, from the sea, and also from the territory itself.
And Gideon Levy speaking to us from Tel Aviv. The response overall in Israel, I mean, the rationale of the Israeli government not to allow Israeli journalists into Gaza to Rafah, their rationale, and what is the population saying?
Could you repeat the last part of your question?
What is the Israeli population response to this right now, and what's the Israeli government rationale for keeping you out of Gaza?
Yeah. Unfortunately, for a long time, the Israeli public opinion is quite indifferent to the Palestinians, the agony, to the suffer, to the life under occupation in general. And same for now. People are only concerned if weapons will be smuggled into Gaza now when the gates are open. And nobody really shares any kind of, maybe I'm naive to expect it, but nobody shares any kind of solidarity with 1.5 million people who most of them are innocent people who wish only to find some work, some food, and some way of normal living. Now, about us, the Israeli journalists, we are prevented to go into Gaza ever since Hamas is in power. And this is also something that should be mentioned because I think by this the Israeli government prevents us from informing our readers, our viewers, how does it really look there in Gaza. We could understand it if it would have lasted a few weeks because they were claiming that there are warnings that we might be kidnapped. But now when it became a constant situation of over 1 year, it's really a source of concern. The problem is that nobody really cares in Israel because nobody really cares in Israel about life in Gaza.
Gideon Levy is speaking to us from Tel Aviv. He's a columnist for Haaretz newspaper. Thanks for joining us from there. As we turn now to Chicago, to Ali Abunimah, the co-founder of the online publication, The Electronic Intifada, author of One Country, A Bold Proposal to End the Israeli-Palestinian Impasse. Welcome to Democracy Now!, Ali Abunimah. Your response to what's happening now in Gaza from here in the United States?
Well, I'd like to say that the suffering in Gaza has been so unremitting and so horrible and will continue. But I think we have to recognize and celebrate the resistance and the people power of the people in Gaza. And we have to recognize that there has been a deliberate siege on them by Israel, a decision taken by the leaders of Israel to starve and inflict suffering on 1.5 million people. The government of Egypt has been complicit in this. They could have opened the borders months ago. Israel has been besieging Gaza for almost 2 years in this way. Egypt didn't have to wait until Palestinians took matters into their own hands to free themselves from this barbaric siege. The United States is complicit. And by the way, Amy, this is another setback for the Bush doctrine. The people of Gaza have been the victims of an experiment by the Bush administration and Israel, where, first of all, they had a democratic election. The US and Israel didn't like that result, so they tried to overthrow Hamas using Contra-style militias and using a starvation siege. Hamas turned the tables on them and got rid of those militias. So they decided to tighten the siege on the people of Gaza, and the people of Gaza decided to break out of it themselves. But the thing we have to absolutely focus on is the responsibility here. Israel, as the occupying power in the Gaza Strip, remains fully responsible for everything that happens there. Under Article 55 of the Fourth Geneva Convention, passed, by the way, after the horrors of World War II, Israel is legally required to provide as much food, water, medicine, and fuel as the civilian population needs. And the excuse that the Israelis are using, that they're doing this in response to rocket fire, we know for a fact that Israel has rejected ceasefire after ceasefire, put forward by Hamas and other Palestinian factions. We know for a fact that there are no rockets coming out of the West Bank, and yet Israel continues to carry out extrajudicial executions in the West Bank and military attacks on Nablus and Balata refugee camp and all the other places in the West Bank. We have to be clear that what Israel is trying to do is a massive experiment in ethnic cleansing to get rid of 1.5 million people who do not fit its demographic desires, and the desire to remain a state where one ethnic group has special and